Check one, check, 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 check. Damn microphone. Damn microphone acting up all the time. Oh, pay attention, pay attention. The gang's here, pay attention. Get started. Let's get rolling. Broadcasting live from beautiful 16-degree downtown Cleveland. It's station WDWL TV, home of not one, but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I am your not-so-good host, the grumpy old man, and... shit. We are brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. No ball. Thank you. See you. Bye. Oh, man. I'm starting to feel like fucking Charlie Brown with that goddamn dark cloud hanging over me all the time. Jesus Christ. Everything was great. Well, besides the Passat breaking down, everything was going along happy Mary until I come home from the store and decided to empty a certain area of my liquid container. And then the goddamn infection is back. So I called the doctor. He says, monitor it overnight. And if there's a problem in the morning, go to the, what the hell did he call it? Whatever, go up the street to the medical office, express care, whatever. And he said, make sure you have a full bladder when you go to the express care. Oh boy. They'll hand me one of them beautiful little cups where you have to break the seal. And then you stick it in the little revolving door and you spin it. And then somebody comes up and goes, oh, shit, look what's in this cup. Oh, God. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no fucking luck at all. I'll tell you that. Never a dull moment. What are you doing, tablet? The tablet wants to do another intro. Jesus. What is going on with this stupid thing? The tablet's got a mind of its own tonight. So, Kathy, have they decided when they're going to reopen the schools down there? At this rate, the kids will be going to school until the end of July. Then they'll go like, what do you mean we only have a week of vacation? I'll tell you, I wish I would have had my camera. I'm going to have to start carrying the camera in the car again. Because as I was backing in the driveway, the fucking school bus come down the street and did a pause and go through the stop sign. They do this constantly. They just do a pause and go, pause and go. So I'm gonna attempt to get this all on video because school buses are supposed to make a dead stop at a stop sign, not a pause and go. What does that make now? A week that they've been out or longer? Oh, these kids are going to have a shit fit come summer. What do you mean we got to go another extra 10 days? Yeah, I think Cleveland was only out like three days. Because I can tell because either there's school buses or no school. And if there's no school buses running up and down my street, then that means no school. You know, like I said yesterday, or was it the day before? The day before, I was behind this minivan, and it had a little yellow sign on the roof that said school children. And it's one of these private hire. And as we were approaching the railroad tracks on 130th going towards Snow Road, the four-way flashers came on, and that minivan made a dead stop at those railroad tracks. And I've never seen them do that. Now, maybe there were kids in there. I with the tinted windows, I couldn't really tell. And, the guy in front of me, he got all pissed off. He's blowing his horn, And then it was maybe 30 seconds. Off went the four ways, and he proceeded over the tracks and down the road. But I see these private vans all the time. And this is the first one I ever saw that actually made a dead stop before going over the railroad tracks. Maybe there were kids. I don't know. I don't know what the restrictions are for the private van services. You know, if they don't have kids, do they just proceed? I don't know. I would say about 15 feet. I mean, he wasn't dead ass at the tracks. Maybe, I'll say maybe like 2 car lengths. Because the guy that was behind him went around and in front of him and over the tracks. Because at private vans, they don't have the big and the little sign that swings out that says stop with the I'd like to get one of them swing out sign things. I think those are cool. The stop sign swings out and it's got 2 flashers over the top. I don't know what I do with it, but I'd like to have one. Mounted to the door of the Passat. You know, for years I had an actual traffic light. And you don't realize how big them things are until you have one in your hands. You know, when they're hanging up there, they look like they're, about a foot tall. This thing was like 30 inches tall. And when I moved, it disappeared. It's probably hanging in one of Dale's friends' basements somewhere. Because I also had it set up. I made a switch panel. I could turn on the red, turn it off, turn on the yellow, turn it off, turn on the green, and then it was a 3-way switch. So on the red, I could turn it, click it twice, and the red would just flash. Or I could do that with the yellow. I had the thing for years, and last time I moved, vanished into thin air, like some of my brand new tools and several other things. I guess they considered that was their payment. Well, I'm supposed to be helping them for free, but screw it, I'll take this traffic light. Oh, look at this nice angle grinder. Well, I'll take that too. Salute, Kathy. I'm on this shit. It was supposed to be 3 days today. Now it's extended another 5, so 8 days more. I had to go up to Mark's, renew the supply. I don't understand it. Everything felt normal. Because the doctor said to me, he said, well, when you were shopping, did you back into something and injure your back? I said, no. With or without? Well, I have seen several times Because if I'm like between 3 and 4 o'clock when I get out of the doctor, that's usually the van and the bus time. This is the first one I've ever seen do that. Matter of fact, a week and a half ago when I was coming back uh, from the doctor, there was one right next to me. And as we approached the tracks, we both right over the tracks. And he had that school children yellow thing on the roof. And I would tend to think that those kind of rules are like national, all 48, 50 states. Maybe I should start reporting. Well, don't make waves, Grumpy. Although when I see the school buses do the touch and go at the stop sign, I am going to start recording them because I had called once when a bus literally blew the sign, and of course I didn't get the bus number. And the person from the Board of Education told me, well, without a bus number, sir, it's hearsay. Okay, next time I'll get a video. That way you can see the old touch and go. But I'm sure that if I get a bus number, the driver, is going to get a severe talking to because I can't see a big line forming for people applying to drive school buses in Cleveland. So, rather than threaten them with the loss of their job, they'll just give them a little, don't do that no more. There's an asshole on Victory Boulevard watching you. See, I used to carry the camera all the time. And I don't know, I got away from it for some reason. Matter of fact, I used to have the GoPros in the shit box in a little case on the seat, and I stopped carrying those because I'll tell you what, as small as that GoPro is, they're real easy to push the record button because they're instant on. When you hit on, they're instant on. Then all you hit record. And I stopped carrying them. I stopped carrying the my DSLR. That's the nice thing about the new DSLR cameras. They'll do a still picture and a video. So I think I'm gonna start watching the school buses and recording them, and we'll see what happens. But I call it the touch and go. They do a pause. The wheels don't even really stop rolling. They just. So, if the school board wants bus numbers, they're going to get bus numbers. I'll put it on a little thumb drive and send it to them. Here you go. Plug it into your computer and hit play. But like I say, I don't think they'll do anything because I think they're short on bus drivers the way it is. So it's called a California Stomp. I never knew it had a name. A California Stop. I'll have to use that. And here's your school bus number 54372 doing a California stop at the sign right at the corner of my driveway. I never knew it had a name. So a touch and go is called the California stop. I wonder, is it because everybody in California does it? It's interesting. It's got a name. I always called it a touch and go. So it's a California stop. Okay. Learn something every day. That's almost as bad as my doctor. They ask you 4, 5, 6,000 questions, and my doctor asked if anyone in my family suffered from mental illness. And I told him, no, we all seem to enjoy it, Doc. He was like, yeah. That was almost as bad as a couple of weeks ago. I decided to take a shortcut through the cemetery, and my GPS said to me, "You've reached your final destination." Man, I got the fuck out of there in a hurry. I checked my shipping information. My certain item should be here Saturday. I can hardly wait. It's coming UPS. Unless UPS backs a trailer up to the main post office and empties it for the postal carrier to deliver. Although I do have an item. It came up on the tracking information today. Now it originated out in Oklahoma. UPS. The tracking information this morning said transferred to USPS. So it came all the way from Oklahoma and got dumped at the post office. Here, you finish delivering this shit. We'll see what the item's Saturday. I'll see what the tracking information says. If that package is getting delivered by UPS all the way, or if it's going to get dumped at the post office. Well, yeah. It's a rolling stop, or like I say, I always call it a touch and go. But it's just interesting how it got the name as a California I mean, people do this in every state. How it got California, why not a Texas stop or an Ohio stop? No, California stop. Speaking of California, my buddy's son out in Burbank put my package in the UPS delivery. Wait until you see what I'm getting. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, out of all the stuff, which there were a couple of items I would have liked, I just settled on one. Although I would have loved to had the console that he's getting rid of, but it would have cost a fortune to ship it here. They're dismantling and remodeling one of the studios, and in the recording booth, they dismantled all the consoles, and there was one section of that console I would have loved to had here, because it was a professional mixer mounted in the console. But I was like, no, as much as I'd like to have it, I don't have anywhere in the house I could do a professional studio like that. So I said, just give me the other item. So he said, okay, I'll box it up, send it to you. Thank you. Shit, he gets all his shit for free. It's amazing the stuff that companies drop off or ship to him for free to test. And then when he's done testing, they tell him, it's yours, keep it. Of course, all of his employees grabbed the $2,000 and $3,000 microphones. I would have loved to have at least one. Yeah, he must have had, which I loved, MKX microphones. I like the whole line. Or MXL, I mean, not MKX. Where did I get that from? And he was showing me some of the $2,000 and $3,000 microphones that they just ship to them and say, test them, give us your rating, and do what you want with them. Because he was telling me that this new studio that they're building has got a shitload of computers in it for AI generated music. Because now he has several companies that want him to design commercials, do the soundtrack, and generate the commercial. Because it's cheaper. It's sad. He was telling me, he goes over to Warner Brothers and Paramount, and they're doing away with a lot of the live sound stages and the orchestras and for computer generated music. Of course, when's the last time you really saw a movie with, a live orchestra in it or a band? Everything is done AI, like they do with the green screen. You have an actor standing in front of a green screen and they're doing, this and this and that and this. And then the movie is generated via computer behind them. Like, what, the Magnificent Seven, or, I can't think of Power Ranger. No, not Power Rangers. Shit like that. The the actor is in costume, but everything is generated by a computer behind them. So, say it's like an apocalypse, they're just standing there in a costume, doing, move your hands this way or that way or fire a gun. And there's nothing really behind them except a green screen. And then at the end of the day, when they do the edit, they let the star of the movie or the actor come in and see what it's going to look like in movie form. No more, God, like Warner Brothers, they had like a whole city. They had acres and acres and acres, and one section would be a city. And then another section would be an old western town, They're tearing all that shit down now because they're not using it. Oh yeah. I couldn't think of Avatar. Yeah, that's all AI. All green screen AI. So, where back in the day it cost maybe $100,000 to make a movie, now they make the movie for 20,000. Yeah, it's all AI and green screen. Because I can't remember what movie, and they were showing the the studio, and there's this big, huge green curtain, and then the actors are in costume, except like Avatar, because that's all AI generated, but they'll be in a costume except for the face. And they do the fighting and they're standing there and there's nothing behind them but a big green curtain. But you know, studios make these movies and they don't have to spend, you know, 200, $300,000 to make a movie. Although I'm trying to think what the hell the movie they made here in Cleveland, was it Captain America? I think it was Captain America, where they actually filmed the car chases and shit up on the Shoreway Bridge because they had the bridges shut down for like a week. People were pissed. What do you mean I have to take a detour? Well, they're filming a movie up there. You know, Kathy, I was in the studio at Channel 8 when my buddy was one of the cameramen. He was a mobile. And he snuck me in while they were doing the news. And when it came time for weather, the I can't remember what the girl's name was. She's looking at a computer monitor and pointing behind her. And there's nothing behind her. There was, I think, a whiteboard. And she's looking at, they had a computer monitor hanging under the camera lens, like a teleprompter. And she's pointing here and pointing there. And we got a cold front coming through here. Pardon me. I forgot to charge that light again, damn it. Okay, we're going to go blue. If I can find the switch. Okay. Put a little light on the subject. I keep forgetting that light has to be charged daily over there. Yeah, that light has got to be probably 5, 6 years old, and it don't hold a charge like it's used to. I keep forgetting I have to charge that thing nightly, and it figures, you know, all of a sudden we go dark. Thank God I have extra lighting in the studio here. Oh, I keep forgetting I got to dig the barn door light out. The big studio light that my buddy's son sent me. Turn that thing on, it's like having a sun in the room. Even with the barn doors adjusted, it's too bright. Of course, it's made for a studio, not this little dinky dipshit area I'm working in here. Salute, Kathy. Oh, it don't get no better. Yeah, I get to the cash register and Olivia goes, "You still drinking that stuff?" I said, "Yeah." And then she bitched me out. Because when I first started drinking it, I asked her, I said, "You ever try it?" She says, no, is it any good? I said, oh, God, you'll love it. She buys a bottle and tries it. She told me her mouth was puckered up for a couple of hours. Don't you ever do that to me again. I said, well, you fell for it. You should be no better than to trust me. Yeah, she buys a bottle of unsweetened cranberry juice, takes a big swig, and like, she was in kind of a crabby mood today. I don't know. Somebody must have pissed her off. Usually she's pretty chatty. Today, I was like, okay. See if I give you anything for Valentine's Day. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a stop at Mally's Candy. And Kathy, you know Mally's. And I'm gonna get an assortment of Mally candy bars. I'll get some of the Nestle Crunch and the almond bars, and they have some with toasted coconut and just regular chocolate. Then Valentine's Day, I'll go up to Mark's and say, okay, take your pick. You get two. That's another place that I walk in to buy two candy bars and get to the register. That'll be $72.95, sir. Holy shit, what did I buy? Well, you got 47 of these candy bars. And well, did you jump out of your car and give him CPR run? Were you the rescue angel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I remember back when I was working downtown for the county, and we had to take a mandatory CPR class. And it was about 3 days after I took the class. I was coming back from Peterson's on my lunch hour because I got a bag of cashews. And there's a group of people, and here's this guy laying on the ground, and there's a group of people just standing there looking at him. And I said, what happened here? And she said, the guy just went down. So I felt for a pulse. I didn't feel nothing. So I started to give him CPR. And I'll tell you what, it ain't nothing like you see on TV. That rib cage is not that easy to depress. And first of all, what you don't see on TV, you have to loosen the chest muscle first. So you take your hands, and as hard as you can, you slam on the sternum. That loosens the muscles so you can start CPR. And by the time fire rescue arrived, he had a heartbeat. And then they took over. I don't know whatever transpired after they left. But when he was on the ground, he was basically dead. And I happened just after he went down. But I'll tell you what, when they're on TV, they're like, it ain't that easy. Take it from someone that actually did it. Those ribs are not made of rubber bands. God, I was sweating up a storm. Jesus Christ. I think I only did CPR for like 3 or 4 minutes. I was wiped out. I was like, man, my highest regards go out to paramedics that have to do that for like half an hour. This guy was ashen gray. And like I say, it was like 3 days after, we had taken that CPR course, because they told you how to feel, for a pulse. Because they said this is more reliable than going to the wrist. And there was nothing. And I'll tell you what, when I came down, people screamed. They thought I was killing the guy. I was like, what? You're killing him, you're killing him. No, I'm loosening the cartilage in his rib cage so that I can do CPR. And it ain't easy. On TV, they're like pushing on a pillow. You want to take over? Okay. Guy takes over. And the producer's going, make it look like you're really trying. Oh, okay. I remember that to this day. Mainly the screams when I loosened the cartilage in his rib cage. People are yelling, you're killing him! After fire rescue got there, I told them, I said, try depressing your rib cage. Stand there and try depressing your own rib cage. Yeah, that was one thing that they stressed in that class. Once you start, you have to continue until there's somebody qualified to take over. You can't just say, hey, pal, put out your cigarette and take over for me. Like you say, I maybe did it 3-5 minutes at the most. Because luckily the fire rescue was just down the street. I was whipped. I felt like somebody ran over me with a dump truck. Matter of fact, I come back to work and I told my boss what happened, and he said, hey, go down to the break room and take as much time as you need. I was wore out, and my arms and shoulders were sore as hell. Because the dummy we were practicing on was not anywhere near as stiff as a real person's rib cage. And I mean, that rib cage depresses about 3-4 inches. It's amazing when you're pumping on somebody's chest how far that rib cage depresses to get to the heart. I wish I would have had some way of following up to see if the guy made it. But I remember I was doing compressions until they got him, got a backboard underneath him, and then they got him up on the stretcher. And then one of the firemen took over, and I was like, thank God. I couldn't have done that another couple of minutes. I'd have died myself. You'd have been doing CPR on me. It ain't easy. On TV, they're pushing on a balloon. Although on TV, when they got a real person, they're just very gently, because that real person would be screaming in agony, you're breaking my ribs. One day when I was, I don't know why I was, I was down in ER because there was something going on in the lab, and they were doing all the blood tests and the urine tests in ER, and I think it was Parma Heights came in, and it looked like a piston that was strapped to the guy's chest, and it was operating off of battery power, because they come in and the machine was going, and as they rolled past me, I was like, I've never seen anything like that. And then I asked one of the firemen. He goes, yeah, it's automatic. But he said, you got to be real careful when you adjust it, he says, because you could crush somebody's chest with that. They put him on a backboard, and then there's a plastic plate that they slide under, and then the straps attach to the corners of the plate that they slide under them. And it's either four or six big thick straps. And then they turn this device on, and then they have to adjust it so that it don't push the guy's rib cage through his back. But that's the only time I've ever seen a machine. And it was like a large gas cylinder, like, when you open your hood or your trunk. It was about maybe that big around, and it looked like a crutch pad was mounted on this piston, and it was dead ass center of the sternum, and the thing was just go. It was amazing, but I've never seen one since. Although, it's not like I'm standing around the emergency room watching people come in. But yeah, they wheeled him in, and here's this machine going. And they had a guy bagging, But the machine was doing all the work. I think the next time I see a Cleveland EMS unit parked having coffee at Starbucks, I'm going to ask them if they have one of them power pistons. Because I've never, although, most of the time when EMS is around here, they're picking somebody up that's got some kind of ailment that they need a stretcher. Although they were a tad late for my neighbor's wife. She was, she had got some medication from a street pharmacist. And he got up to make coffee. And he walked out in the living room, and she was, by then, she was taking a dirt nap. I always, anytime I had been over there, because I used to have him fix shit on my cars, she always looked like she was dealing in street side pharmacy items, but I could never prove it until the coroner took her out one day. You never know what you're buying. And the shit's getting nastier. You may think that you're buying maybe some Adderall tablets, and you're buying 100% fentanyl. Pop one of them. It's dirt nap time. She always was a little spacey, She'd come over with him, and neither eye focused in the same place at the same time. And then basically it proved my suspicions. You always know, because EMS leaves and a police car sits and waits for the coroner. And then you see that nondescript white van pull up, and you know what it is. And then you see the stretcher come out with a body bag on it, and they go, whoop, dirt nap. Permanent dirt nap. And he denied it, up and down. No. No, officer. Then the toxicology report came on from the coroner's office, and we're like, whoa. There's some high levels of street pharmaceuticals here. I mean, it's a shame. She was a nice person. But whatever she bought that last time, didn't agree with her. I had asked him a couple of times. He never was straight with me. I just wanted to know what she bought and where. Because I'd have told the police. Really? Well, no wonder a lot of ambulances don't have them. Man, 20 to 40 grand. Well, Parma, at least one Parma Heights ambulance had one. I would tend to think Cleveland don't. I hear our EMS units are just barely getting by with the equipment that they've got. Wow, $20,000 to $40,000. So you buy the thing for say 35 grand, and then every time you use it, it costs up to $100 to operate. Wow. But I'll tell you what, Kathy, it was a neat machine. Just watching it, because I kind of snuck back past the nurse's desk, was watching when they shut it off, and then one of the, I don't know, doctors, interns took over. Yeah, I would tend to think with that kind of investment, there's not a lot of them floating around. But like I say, Parma Heights had one because I saw him come to the door. I was like, oh, what's that? Hang on, guys. Get past the nurse's desk. Nurse grabs me. Get back over there. Okay, okay, okay. I wanted to see the machine. We're busy. Get out of the way. They called the code. Man, people came out of the fucking woodwork. I never saw so many people and so many carts and drug pumps and that shit that people are. The one guy was running down the hall with a Craftsman toolbox, pushing that thing. You look in the emergency room in that area, and there was like 400 people in there. Because it's interesting how hospitals call a code. Because I was listening to the PA system, Dr. Blue, Trauma Room 1, Dr. Blue, Trauma Room 1. Dr. Blue was a code blue. That meant the person came in blue. And then when they needed security, I heard that one come over once. Dr. Strong, report to the emergency room lobby. Dr. Strong. And then every security guard in the hospital. Yeah, Dr. Blue and Dr. Strong. Because one of the security guards almost knocked me over. Where are you going? I'm going to the emergency room lobby. Well, which one of you is Dr. Strong? I don't see no doctors here. Oh, they call it. A lot of hospitals are sneaky. They don't really want you to know what's going on. Because you hear that on like Grey's Anatomy or The Pit, code blue, code blue. But at Metro Parma, it's Doctor. Dr. Blue, Dr. Strong. As a matter of fact, the day they called the code in the emergency room lobby was when I was getting my hand stitched up. And they had just given me the release papers. I got this big bandage on my hand, you know. I'm walking towards the lobby to go out to get my car, and this security guard almost knocked me over. So then I asked him, "What's going on? Didn't you hear the code?" "Well, I heard him call Dr. Strong, but I don't see nobody in a white coat out here." Yeah, that could be, Kathy. That could very well be. Especially anybody that knows if it's called a code. But when they page a doctor, it's like, oh, doctor's got an interesting name, Dr. Blue. Or like when the fight was going on in the emergency room lobby. And the girl calling it was so professional, you know. "Dr. Strong, emergency room lobby, please. Dr. Strong." Me, I'd be like a goofy idiot. "Code blue, code blue, code blue." "Where?" "Oh, I forgot. Parking lot." The next time I go see my doctor, I'm going to ask him, do they still use doctor? I would tend to think so. But I remember, I'm getting my discharge papers. And of course, there's a speaker in every goddamn room. But she was so professional. "Dr. Strong, emergency room lobby, please. Dr. Strong." I wonder if they practice that. But, oh, yeah, she was real professional over the PA system. Especially the way she said it like the second or third or fourth time. "Dr. Strong." Yeah, that'd be me. "Hey, assholes, there's a fucking code blue in trauma room 3. Get your ass down there." I'm not supposed to say it that way? Too bad. What do you mean I can't call codes anymore? Oh, gee. What do you mean I'm not supposed to cuss and swear? I got everybody's attention. Man, there's 400 people in that trauma room right now. None of this mamsy-pamsy, Dr. Blue. "Hey, got a goddamn code in trauma room 3. Get your ass down there quick." But man, I'll tell you what, Kathy, I never saw shit carts coming and IV pumps and oxygen tanks and people running down the hall pushing, like I say, that poor guy that was pushing that Craftsman toolbox. "Get out of the way!" Wheel around the corner. One thing I couldn't understand was why he was coming, from miles away with that crash cart, because Usually in every emergency room is a crash cart. It's right there because they're all covered up with plastic. They take the big clear plastic bag off. I'll tell you, it is like seeing it on TV. It's like every employee in the hospital runs for that room. And you better not be in the way because you're going to get mowed over. People with carts of all sizes and IV pumps running down the hall. And then, you got 300 people in that trauma room. And it's like, all right, who's going to do what here? And I remember there was she must have been the head trauma nurse. She was the one, the doctor would say something to her, and she would say, all right, anesthesiology, we need to intubate. And the doctor would say something else to her, all right, give him 3 units of bicarb. He'd say something to her, all right, we need 7 units of epinephrine. Somebody come with a big needle. Ow, 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 ow. I got trypanophobia. Cut that shit out. Oh, I'm back among the living? Okay, I forgive you for sticking me in the chest with that 8-inch needle. When I was working at Lakewood, you would hear, and they did the same thing. It was all doctor this, doctor that. But I had never been in the real situation than the day I just happened to be coming out of the emergency room when Parma Heights came in with that guy with the CPR pump going. And man, people came out of nowhere. I swear people come up from the tile in the floor and out from the woodwork. And it was amazing how many people were there in a couple of seconds. Although I was in the emergency room at Lakewood once when they had a trauma going. It must have been a heart attack or something. And they're working away and they're working away, and the doctor, clear. And then they're working away, working away, working away. Clear. And the next time you hear the doctor, 642. What the hell, 642? And the nurse said, that goes on the death certificate. Uh-oh. Yeah, the doctor just calmly stood back, looked at his watch. 6:42. Everybody started to leave. Here went the sheet. What's the 6:42? Oh, really? I guess he won't need this tray then. I'll take it back to the cafeteria. Yeah, after all that screaming and yelling and people, the doctor just kind of stood back real calm, looked at his watch. 6:42. I'll go back to my coffee now. Yeah, dummy me, What was that 642 shit? Oh, really? Well, I'll take this tray back to the cafeteria then. Get back to the cafeteria. How come you brought the tray back? Doctor said 642. They didn't need the dinner tray. Put it back on the cart. I used to like to go down the emergency room and steal the little mini cans of ginger ale. They were like 6 ounces. A little half can. You could put like 50 of them in your pocket. And there was always there was a little cabinet. There were cans of warm ginger ale and boxes of unsalted saltine crackers. We always had to keep that cabinet stocked. Ginger ale and saltine crackers. Of course, I knew what it was for, but it was just hilarious where you go in the emergency room and okay, let's see, we need another 14, 18 cans of ginger ale and 2 boxes of crackers. I used to like them little mini cans of ginger ale. Although now, when I go into Mark's, everybody has a mini can. No matter what pop, well, except Fago. But when you look at the end caps, you have little tiny cans of ginger ale and root beer and Coca-Cola and Sprite. And them little mini cans are just as expensive as if you were buying an 8-pack. I'm like, gee, you're getting half the fucking pop. I know some people just like a little tiny can. Wait a minute. Let me look here. Okay. I thought I had some. When I was transporting the airline crews for ATA, American Transair, which went bankrupt, when the girls had come off the plane, they would bring me little bottles of booze. And I used to have a bunch of them on the shelf here, although I drank them over the years. I thought that was so cool until now you can buy them anywhere. The liquor store, you can get a bunch of the miniatures. The Indian store, of course, those are what, 30 proof or something. They're not the high-powered ones, but yeah, they have big plastic buckets on the counter. You can buy vodka or whiskey. But for the longest time, you couldn't buy them. And I always thought it was cool. The girls had come off the plane, and I put them in the car. And then when we got to the hotel, they'd be handing me hands full. Here you go. Thank you, little itty bitty. I'd be throwing in my briefcase. Because I remember, where the hell, when my buddy moved to Maryland, I thought it was really cool. You would go into like a 7-Eleven, and there were tables in the back, and you could buy a miniature or two or three and a beer, and you could go in the back of the 7-Eleven and drink. Because I remember I bought several bottles to bring back to add to my collection that I used to have on the shelf over here. And then the liquor law changed, and you can go in and buy 8 packs or 10 packs or whatever they come in now. The last time I was in the liquor store, I saw a whole bunch of them. Yes, Grumpy every now and then sneaks into the liquor store. I get my vodka and Bloody Mary mix. Oh man, I used to. Oh, that was my drink of choice. Bloody Marys. Every now and then I get a taste for one. When I know I don't have a doctor's appointment for like 30 days. And the best is Mr. T's Green. They have Mr. T's Red, which is regular Bloody Mary mix with Tabasco. And then the green is Bloody Mary mix with Tabasco and horseradish. Nothing like horseradish in a Bloody Mary. Oh, man. And I've tried them all. Dailies, and I can't remember some of the other ones. Mr. T's is the best. Or is it Mr. and Mrs.? Whatever. That's the best one. Sure, Kathy, we all have to every now and then. As much as, my doctors preach. I mean, it's not like I'm slugging one down every night. But every now and then, I get a taste. And I'll get the Bloody Mary mix, and I'll get a fifth of vodka. Kamchatka. I like that one. I like Kamchatka vodka. Kind of rhymes. Kamchatka vodka. Grumpy can't afford Grey Goose. Oh, Jesus. I looked at the price of that. What do you mean $105? What is that stuff made of? Plutonium? Yeah, Grumpy don't buy off the top shelf. I buy off the bottom shelf where I got to blow the dust off the bottle, I can't believe the prices of liquor. Now, the last time I was at the liquor store, I'm looking at like the high-end vodkas, and then I was looking at the high-end tequila. I was like, how do these people buy 5, 6, 7 bottles of this shit, and it's like $90? There was a guy. I was in like, it was like June or July. I think it was before the 4th of July. This guy spent $1,100 on booze. I was like, I'm crying about this bottle being, $19.95. I remember when this shit sold for $5 a bottle, you know. He's buying frickin' Grey Goose at 90 some dollars and Don Quixote tequila at, you know, $80. Oh, the bottle's only about that big. Jesus. Although tequila, I can't do tequila. No way. I remember it had to be the late 70s when the tequila sunrise was the big popular drink. It got replaced by Long Island iced tea after a while, but tequila sunrise, that was the drink. And I was down, there was I was working for White Motors at the time, and there was something going on at the plant down in New River Valley, Virginia, or Dublin. I think we were Dublin, in that area. And after the conference and after dinner, we all kind of meandered over to the bar. And I heard this waitress order a tequila sunrise. I'd never heard of it. And I asked the bartender, I said, "What's a tequila sunrise?" He says, "I'll make you one." He mixes it up. And it went down easy. It really did. The first one. So I ordered another one. I says, "Hey, those are pretty good. Mix me up another one." So I had the third one. And then I had a fourth one. And all I remember was getting up off the bar stool and then waking up in my bed the next morning. And I'll tell you what, I had a hangover. I could hear a cat walking 50 feet away. "Please, oh, stop it, stop it." Oh, man, that shit hit me. One of the guys told me, he said, "You stood up and then you went down. And we dragged you back and threw you in your bed." Yeah, I woke up and I'm all dressed. What the hell, man? And I look at the clock and I was like, "Oh, shit, in a half an hour I got to go to another conference meeting." I drag my ass in the shower, get dressed, show up at the conference meeting. I'm like, "Can you turn that PA system down?" And the guy said, "I'm not using a microphone." Oh, I never had another one in them in my life. No way. Not me, Kathy. Oh, they went down easy. Give me another one of them. Like I say, after the fourth one, they told me I stood up and right down I went. So 4 guys dragged my ass to my room and threw me on the bed, and that's where I woke up the next morning with a head the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. Oh, man. I could hear a cricket breathing from 50 feet away, and it hurt. Never again. Because I can remember being out with friends and they offered me a Long Island iced tea. And I asked the bartender, I says, how much iced tea is in this Long Island iced tea? And he said, none. I said, none? Yeah, it's like 7 different liquors mixed together. There ain't no iced tea in it. Why they call it iced tea, I don't know. I never had one, though. That's what my ex-wife used to drink. She loved whiskey sours. My first ex. That was her drink. Because we were married in 71. And that was kind of like the popular drink then, too. I'd be drinking my Bloody Marys and she'd be ordering whiskey sours. And then my buddy's wife, she drank gin and tonic. Oh my God, how can you drink that shit? Have you ever had tonic water straight? Holy shit, is that crappy. God, how people can drink that stuff. I remember back in no, it wasn't tonic water, it was club soda. My grandmother would use baking soda and club soda to scrub a stain. She always had club soda in the laundry room. Because I remember, I had never tasted a gin and tonic. And one day, my buddy had one of them little miniature gin and tonics. What is it? 4-ounce bottle, 6-ounce. I said, let me have one of them. Opened that shit up and took one drink. Oh, God, I gagged for a week. How people can drink tonic water. Oh. I guess maybe the gin kills the taste of the tonic water. Man, was that nasty shit. Yeah, you're right. Very medicinal. And how people can drink that. Gin and tonic. Blah. If I'm not drinking Kamchatka vodka, I like how that rolls off your tongue. I like Glenlivet Scotch. Because Glenlivet is a single malt Scotch. And you have to have an acquired taste for Scotch. A little Glenlivet on the rocks. But I can't afford Glenlivet anymore. And you can't find no miniatures. I don't know why. So every now and then, I pop up and get me a bottle of Mr. T's Green and some Kamchatka vodka. And then, which makes people gag, I'll mix up a Bloody Mary. And instead of Worcestershire sauce, I like bitters. I put a couple of shots. And I remember if my father had an upset stomach, he would pour a shot glass of bitters and Matter of fact, I still have half a bottle in the fridge. Goes to show you how much I use that shit. I don't know. I tried a drink of that. I don't know how people could drink that stuff. Oh, Mad Dog 2020. Oh, MD Mogan David. Remember the days, Kathy, of Boone's Farm? It seemed like for a while everybody was drinking Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. I still remember the two old men and thank you for your support. And then Boone's Farm disappeared. I haven't heard about Boone's Farm. I don't know if they still make it. But back in it had to be in the 70s. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill or Apple Hill or something. They had strawberry and apple. And you'd see the commercials for it constantly. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill, and thank you for your support. But I haven't heard Boone's Farm in 6,000 years. Strawberry Hill, those are some classy Girl Scouts. So much for the oath. After dinner, Boone's Farm. But you saw it like in every store. Any store that sold alcohol, there was always a big display of Boone's Farm. And as fast as it got popular, it got unpopular. You used to see commercials and ads in the newspaper, ads in the magazines. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. And then I'm going to have to wander through the liquor store over in the wine section and see if Boone's Farm is still. And then I had an oddball friend that used to drink a wine called Moody Blue. I haven't heard of Moody Blue in probably since the 70s. That's all he used to drink, Moody Blue. Never tasted it. Couldn't tell you what. I'm not a wine person. I can't drink wine. No matter. Well, I take that back. I like, of course, we're talking bucks, ice wine. I could drink a bottle of ice wine in a sitting. But ice wine is like $100. There used to be a package store up on Clifton, and every now and then they had a markdown area. And every now and then he'd have a bottle of ice wine marked down like 50%, and I'd buy it. and then you have to refrigerate it because it tastes best when it's cold. But regular wine, that's like my middle sister, her and her husband. They have their own vineyard and they make their own wine and they go all over to wine tastings, miss nose in the air. Every now and then I'll see her Facebook post, we were up on Kelly Island for a wine tasting. Good for you. They go all over Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania to these wine tastings. And he's got, I don't know how many acres of property, and he grows his own grapes, and he makes his own wine. A real connoisseur, They still make Boone's Farm? I'll be damned. I'm surprised it sells. You never see an ad for it anymore. Evidently, the two old guys died. Thank you for your support. Put a lily in his hand, he's gone. I never hear anybody mention it, Kathy. Every now and then someone will mention, pick up a bottle of rot gut, I never hear anybody say, hey, don't forget to get a bottle of Boone's Farm on the way out. I'm surprised they still make it. Because there's no way it has the popularity it had back in the day. I mean, God, you would see commercial after commercial. You got tired of hearing about Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. Amazing, they still bottle it. God, that winery has got to be hanging on by a thread, unless it's popular somewhere. I mean, it might be popular in some states, but I've never heard of it since the 70s. Unbelievable. I'll have to buy a bottle and ship it to my sister and say, here, taste this, you snob. Oh, God. Now you're going to tell me where I can find it. I used to buy shit at State Road. They're still in business. I'll be damned. They used to carry some weird beer in there. They would get beers from all over the world. Because I never forget the one day I was in with my buddy. I don't know what the hell we were getting. I think we were getting a case of Heineken's, and he used to drink Jobel. That's what he called it, Gobel. I want an 18-pack of Jobel. Like making it sound French made it elite or something. And I come across a beer. It had a skeleton on the bottle. And the name of the beer was That Dead Guy Ale. I wanted to buy some just to keep the bottle. I couldn't believe it. I even asked the guy at the register, I says, is that shit for real? He goes, yeah. He says, a lot of people like it. But it had a skeleton on the frickin' bottle, and it was That Dead Guy Ale. I don't know if State Road still carries all them weird beers. They used to get beers from all over the world in there. I'm going to have to stop in there one day. Now that I know they're still in business. I know right where they're at. Yeah, that Dead Guy Ale. Like, oh, I think I'll put that one back. Another beer he had in there, they were in cans. And they had big fat women on the cans. And it was Old Frothing Slosh. And it said the beer, what was it? The beer with the foam on the bottom. But every can had a big fat woman on smiling away. Old Frothing Slosh. I don't know if they still make that shit. I never tried it, but it was, yeah, the beer with the foam on the bottom. Like if you poured it out, the foam was on the bottom of the glass and the beer was on the top. There was probably no foam in it at all, but Old Frothing Slosh. They had some weird shit in there. Yeah, I'm glad you found that, Kathy. I really am. I'm gonna stop at State Road Beverage one day when the weather gets better, and just see if they still have them weird beer in there. Because if they have that Dead Guy Ale, I'm gonna buy a 6-pack. I don't care what the price is, just for the bottle. Yeah, Old Frothing Slosh. It doesn't even sound appetizing. But that Dead Guy Ale was the name of that beer. I thought it was a joke. I said to the guy at the cat, is that stuff for real? He said, yeah, buy some. Nah, that bottle looks a little scary. I don't want to be taking my last drink holding that bottle in my hand. Those they had a bunch of weird ones, but those are the two I remember. That Dead Guy Ale and Old Frothing Slosh. With the big fat woman, and she always had like this German-looking dress on. I wanted to buy it just to see if you poured it out. You know, where's the foam? And that was the advertisement. The beer with the foam on the bottom. Okay. Never bought any. But I'm going to take a ride to State Road Beverage when the weather gets better. And ask the guy, do you have any of that Dead Guy Ale? And if he says yes, I'll piss myself. Because that was back in the 70s or early 80s. Of course, you know, I don't get over that way, so I didn't know that they were still in business. But, man, that place has been in business a long time. Of course, back in the day, they weren't deli. It was just all beverage. So now I can get a 6-pack of that Dead Guy Ale and a corned beef sandwich to go. Matter of fact, I got a taste for corned beef. I'll have to see how much corned beef is at Save-A-Lot. Put one in the crock pot. Make me some corned beef and cabbage. The stale pale ale with the foam on the bottom. Yeah, yeah. I remember the foam on the bottom. I didn't know it was called the stale pale ale. Yeah, an old Miss Frothing slush. All these. It made for a neat looking can. I'll tell you what, that label. Salute. It don't go down any easier. Yeah, I can go over to State Road Beverage, pick up a 6 pack of that Dead Guy Ale, a 6 pack of Frothing Slush, a bottle of Kamchatka vodka, and some Mr. T's Bloody Mary mix, and I'll be good to go. I would hope they still have. I just want it for the bottle. I won't drink it. I just want it for the bottle. Because every bottle had a skeleton on it. But they had some weird beers in there. God, I can't even remember them. I walked through there one day. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Beer from England, Ireland, Africa, you name it. Anywhere on the continent, they had beer from that place. I don't know where that Dead Guy Ale was made. I used to be in awe just walking around looking at all the different beers. Another one of my buddy drank Little Kings. They came in little bottles. I don't know, they were I think 6 ounce, maybe 8 ounce. Little Kings. Because he used to stop at his local beverage store and tell him, I want 6 with legs. I'll never forget the day the one cashier went, what? 6 to go. 6 with legs. Little Kings. They were, like I say, they were little bottles. Probably why they call them Little Kings. He'd get a 6 pack of them and he was happy. Another one well, you know, most of the beverage stores around here carry just what sells. They really don't have oddball shit. Although they do have some microbrewery beers in there. Beer brewed with lemon rind and orange peel. I'm like, bleh. Which one? Which one stopped production? Which one do I have to go get in a hurry? Dead Guy Ale, Frothing Slush, Little Kings. Which one? Which one, Kathy? So I can run out there. I'll have to call State Road Beverage and say, "You got any of this? Save me a 6 pack. I'll be right there." What do you want? just went completely. Now I got nothing. What the hell's going on with this microphone? All of a sudden, my headphones just went out. Now they're back. So they were still making that dead guy ale, huh? Wow. Well, evidently it wasn't that popular that they stopped brewing it. I'm gonna have to call State Road Beverage in the morning. Well, hang on, note time. Note time. If I don't write it down, I'll forget. Call State Road Beverage about that dead guy ale. If they still have some, I'm going to tell them, hold me a 6. Hold me a 6. And I don't care what the weather's like, I'm going to go get one. Because I want it just for the fucking bottle. Unbelievable. You know, when I saw that, it was either the late 70s or early 80s. It's amazing, up until January, that they were still bottling it. Unreal. Evidently, it was popular somewhere. Newport, Oregon. Yeah, it might have been popular out there. But it's amazing State Road Beverage would pay to ship that stuff to Ohio. Evidently, it must have sold. They wouldn't keep stocking something if it didn't sell. But I have my note right here. I'm going to call in the morning, and if they have it, I'm going to tell them, hold me 6, put my name on it. I'll be in there sometime during the day. Because for the fucking bottle. Just for the bottle with the skeleton on it. Unbelievable. Well, thank you, Kathy, for looking that up. I'm going to call them in the morning. And if they still have some, you'll see it tomorrow night. I'll hold the bottle up. Maybe I'll drink one. Just to try it. Although, it's not like they're going to be collectible, you know. If beer doesn't turn over, it gets skunky. And man, I've had some skunky beer in my life. Open a can of skunky beer. Oh, God. You know why they call it skunky. Isn't it cool? Those aren't the bottles neat? Believe me, it catches your eye when you're walking down an aisle going, the hell is that shit? Somebody's got skeletons on their beer bottles. Boots, at least you could have closed the door. Somebody's hungry. Yeah, it's dinner time. That's why he was in here. Feed me. I'm surprised I don't hear that out of him. Feed me. Feed me. I'm hungry. Well, I think I have to go feed Fatso. He's dropping hints that he's hungry. right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And thanks for the info, Kathy. I really appreciate that. I'm going to call State Road Beverage in the morning. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we will meet again right here tomorrow night. The show that has not one, but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And with that, there'll be 2 see-yas like usual. See-ya number 1 and see-ya number 2.